Hi, welcome to the Wakefield Board of Selectmen meeting for March 9th, 2015. I'd like to start, actually, just real quickly, get an approval of the minutes from our prior meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Paul, second by Tiz, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that out of the way, we'll move into our fun things. We just took a photograph with the Citizen Scholarship. Well, it's no longer the Citizen Scholarship Foundation, right? It's the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield, and the Board of Selectmen has a proclamation that I'll quickly read, and then we have some folks who are going to speak on behalf of the organization. So, whereas the Citizen Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield is now known as the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield as of January 1st, 2014, the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield, Inc. will continue its quest in generating the largest cash scholarship awards of any such citizens volunteer group. And the citizens and business community of Wakefield have always supported the Foundation of Wakefield in its annual fundraising appeal, this being their 35th annual phone-a-thon. And the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield has assisted many Wakefield students in continuing their education since its inception. And the foundation hopes to increase the 2015 awards to a new record. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Wakefield, in meeting assembled on Monday, March 9, 2015, does hereby endorse and support the efforts of the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield by endorsing its annual phone-a-thon on Saturday, 21st, 2015, and does designate the week of March 15th to March 21st as the Scholarship Foundation Week in Wakefield. So, with that, let me give you this first. There you go. Here's your proclamation.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
I
Shake your
appreciate
hand.
it. Thank you.
Thanks. And go ahead, just introduce yourself and
All right.
speak.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Donovan. I'm the Vice President of the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield. Our organization was formed in 1960, and over the past 55 years, the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield, formerly known as CSF of Wakefield, has helped more than 10,000 Wakefield students attain a higher education. Last year, more than $450,000 was awarded to Wakefield full-time students of all ages, increasing the total awarded since 1960 to over $10.7 million. Some attended our annual fall golf tournament, winter dinner, dance, or jazz brunch, and our very successful trivia night challenge that's held every February. On Saturday, March 21st, we hold our 35th annual phone-a-thon. As Vice President, I serve as the phone-a-thon chairperson. Last year, we raised over $51,000 from the phone-a-thon, and this was instrumental in allowing us to award more than $450,000 in scholarships last year to 85 students, and we hope to increase this number this year. I would like to introduce to you all Carolyn Harney, the President of the Scholarship Foundation Student Directors, who will talk a little bit more about the upcoming phone-a-thon.
Thank you, Mrs. Donovan. I'm Carolyn Harney, and I'm the president of the Student Directors of the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield. Before I begin, I would like to ask the other student directors who are with me tonight to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Emily Attai, and I'm the class of 2017.
Hi, I'm Madeline Che, and I'm from the class of 2016.
Hi, I'm Caroline Sweeney, and I'm from the class of 2018.
Hi, I'm Megan Gibbons. I'm part of the class of 2018.
I'm Rachel Semmel, part of the class of 2018.
Thank you. 1 week from this Saturday, on March 21st, we expect to have between 50 and 100 high school students on hand for the 35th annual TSF Phone-a-thon. For the 5th consecutive year, we will be conducting our phone-a-thon at the AmeriCal Civic Center. We call as many Wakefield residents as we can between the hours of noon and 4 p.m. on that Saturday, and we hope that everyone will respond favorably to our most important fundraiser of the entire year. We hope to be able to surpass the $51,873 that we raised at last year's phone-a-thon. On behalf of the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield, we would like the Board of Selectmen to endorse our 35th annual phone-a-thon, and we would also ask that you please designate the week of March 15th through March 21st as the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield's Phone-a-thon Week. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Comments? Betsy, go ahead.
May I ask you, where are you holding your
It will be held at the Civic Center. The phone calls will start being made around noon and end around 4.
Now, who subsidizes that and gets the phones in there? Or do you need additional phones?
Well, actually, we've changed things in the last, this is our probably third year going on. The students actually use their own cell phones.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
so
figured.
years ago, we were able to do it at an office space. So it became more of a challenge, but people seem to expect the calls.
Right.
So,
Thank you. I just wanted to let them know that it wouldn't be the savings bank as it was years ago.
Right.
Coming up on your caller ID. It could be anybody's cell phone coming up on the caller ID.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
For those of us who barely answer our home phones,
Mhm.
can we donate another way?
The light bills that are coming out are actually stuffed with an opportunity to make a donation, and those are all going out as we speak.
Is there an online vehicle to donate?
There is, if you Google the Scholarship
Sure.
Foundation of Wakefield,
Excellent.
you'll actually be able to do it that way.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else? We good? Pat?
Yeah, just quickly, I'm always impressed every year by the young faces you see come in, do all the hard work, so this has been a great organization for so long. It's benefited so many young people through college and so forth. Thank you all for doing all the work that you're doing, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Good? I'll second what Pat said. That's, congratulations, great work, great organization in the town, a pillar of the community, and best of luck this year with the phonathon.
Thank you.
All your fundraising.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, squad members. All right. Next item up, we did our photograph with them, so next item up is our public participation. I think somebody, Steve?
I think you have one person signed in, Bob Mitchell, I believe.
Okay, and refresh me, our public participation rules, 5 minutes or
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
Extended only by a 2/3 vote if the motion is made.
Okay.
Good evening, Bob Mitchell.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Bob Mitchell, 6 Spalding Street. I'd like to address 2 important sectors for town government: financial management and human resources. When the prior administration ended in about 1998, I believe the 1999 appropriations for the town was $45 million. Current appropriations, I believe, are $79 million. That's a 75% increase in just 5 years. Along the way, we hear the same broken record and falsehoods that the next commercial development will result in additional tax and reduce the burden on the taxpayers. There is some truth there, but relief, for instance, relief like when the new business at the head of the lake went in, it was expressed that it would consume such a large amount of electricity and gas that this new economy of scale would actually reduce homeowners' gas and electricity bills. I haven't seen it. All I've seen from that is an abundance of often poorly placed utility, but have often been met with displeasure by many in the town. But this, like many other developments, still leave us with the fact that spending's up 75%. As we can see, businesses on Main Street and homeowners also continue to struggle with this increasing tax burden. I also believe the current stabilization fund is funded in excess and contributes to this burden that we all share. So I ask, can we get relief? I do hope that this year's budget is reduced, the stabilization fund is reduced, and the average homeowner and Main Street business owner can get some way overdue relief. I do understand the budget is currently being prepared, and I would ask the selectmen and town officials to consider reducing the tax burden on residences and Main Street businesses. In addition, recently, in addition to the financial management issue, many letters and much press related to a most respected town official. Regardless of your view, I and many others were appalled to see such a sensitive human resources issue turn into an unfortunate personal attack.
About
I've never-
30 seconds, just to give you a
Okay,
warning.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just briefly, also, before the planning board and the current Board of Appeals is a very large commercial development in downtown Wakefield. My understanding is there are issues related to good engineering, and the rumor is that the current engineer that's most familiar with the site has been recently moved on. I do hope, whether this is true or not, that this change will result in superior engineering solutions, but many citizens do have doubts. About 5 more sentences.
Real quick. You're
Okay,
over.
yep. In summary, given the concerns noted above with both financial planning and human resources, what this community wants is more transparency, not less. What this community wants is not less but more elected officials. I do hope to see the current appropriations reduced in 2015, and I do hope to see that no positions change from being elected by the many to being appointed by the few. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know that we don't respond, and I have no intention of responding to this, but I just wanted something that we might want clarified with Mr. Sardella from the item, if any of that is going to be quoted. I'm not so sure the dates and the times were correct,
Right.
so I just want that clarified before it gets into.
Yeah, he might want to double
Okay.
check that.
Just to keep the record,
I think it was
Straight.
a decade.
yeah, I think it was
over
10 years
miss
over.
on
Yeah.
the suggestion of how the budget's
Yeah.
increased. All right, speaking of budgets, item number 6 on our agenda are budgets. Mr. Gill, come on. We're going to go through 5 of them this evening, starting with IT.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have David Knox here, the town's IT director. I'll give a quick overview of the budget, then I'll turn it over to David. The IT budget number 3, we're requesting an increase over last year of $10,806. Bill services, the increase is $23,114. The total personal service budget, $566,933, less the chargebacks to the schools and the enterprise accounts, for a total personal service of $309,933. The overall increase breaks down $13,760 for negotiated and contractual items. Then there were items that were adjusted. We removed a vacant tech position and a vacant IT business administration position, included a new project manager's position, and reclassified the system administration. So the total tax levy increase for these changes, $9,354. Under contractual services, there's a decrease of $13,108. We have an increase of $4,760 to computer maintenance. That was for increased services to the public safety building. And a decrease of $20,518 to the software maintenance, and that's due to chargebacks to the school department and the enterprise accounts. We have a small increase of $800 in materials and supplies, increased office supplies, $1,050, decrease reproducing and computer supplies, $50. The total tax levy request for this budget, $431,620. With that, I'll turn it over to David if he has any statements.
Not really. I think you did a good job summarizing it for me, Kevin, even Mr. Chairman. As Kevin noted, the only major change really is on the personal services side. We've made some adjustments. It's IT personnel, particularly here in town. It's a moving target with the schools and enterprise divisions. The demands for our services varies from one year to the next. I think it's improving, or the consistency is improving to a point now where I think we've got a pretty good handle on it. Other than that, there are no major changes, and I open that up for your questions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve budget number 3 in the amount of $431,620.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by, second by Tiz. I'll just add, before we take any other discussion, because I'm afraid there might not be any. No, I think the IT department does a great job in the town. It's somewhere that I think, if anything, while we manage this budget like all others very carefully and, well, just very carefully. And I think it's an area that probably is one in the future where to look at deeper investment. This is, as I've said, in my line of work and the customers I deal with the Army and Department of Defense and a lot of other government agencies have always said they've gone from becoming IT enabled to IT dependent. And I think that theme carries through, all parts of government, including our state government and our local government here, where we are no longer IT enabled. It's not nice to have some IT services. They are absolute requirements. They rise to the level and the significance that snow plowing does, and the levy does, and what police and fire do. I mean, IT is right there, swimming in the same streams. And so I think we ought to carefully look at this next year and find, other ways through this budget or through capital planning, what are the IT needs of the town, and make sure we properly fund them. So whether it's new bodies, new positions, whatever it takes, but it's somewhere I'd like to see, if we're gonna shift things from the left pocket to the right, that things go into this pocket in the future.
Right. And David, I believe Steve had reported at a prior meeting, some of the increase in personal services was a result of looking at how you can best manage the town and the school, and as a result of that, work has been done much more quickly, more efficiently. The school is very happy, the town is happy compared to where we were a couple of years ago. So services have increased exponentially with some shifting of priorities in that, so I think that's a great thing.
Yeah,
Great move.
we made a couple of good hires, and I think that's contributed a lot to it, and making smart hires as well, not just
Exactly.
filling seats for the sake of filling vacancies. It's just not, doesn't make any sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Steve?
If I can just jump in and I want to make it clear, there are no new positions in this budget. There are positions that were budgeted that we are maybe changing
Shifting
around and shifting on what the needs
Thank
are. But there really aren't any new
Right.
expansive positions. That's why it's a very minimal
Absolutely.
increase in it. And David and his crew saved this community hundreds of thousands of dollars building of the Galvin and other areas that we handled in-house. So really kudos to them. And what you said, the town is happy, the school is happy, and
Yep.
the one thing we got right.
Great, so we do have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Next up, I think we have police.
Budget number 16, the police budget. We have Chief Smith here. Again, I'll give a quick overview, and then I'll turn it over to the chief. I will say the police budget is my favorite budget this year. We're recommending a decrease of $59,888. In personal services, the decrease, $46,161. Last year, if you remember, we had 7 new recruits going to the academy, so we had a lot of one-time expenses. The emergency overtime, we were able to reduce this year, $127,913, now that these new recruits have gone through the academy. We've increased the court line item $15,000, the training school line item $5,000, that's due to current year expenditures and expected expenditure. The remaining increase in this budget, $61,000, I'm sorry, the next increase in personal services, $61,752. That's contractual and negotiated increases. So we have a big decrease in overtime, several increases, court, training, and then the contractual items at $61,000. But the overall decrease is $46,161. Contractual services decreased $14,660. This again, we decreased the training school line item, $23,600. That was for the 7 new recruits for last year. We have several small increases, the largest being in the hired equipment line item, which is actually leased equipment, copy machines, and the town's motorcycles, for $4,000. Materials and supplies, small increase of $433. The main increase, the kitchen's parts line item, increased $8,000. This is for wireless microphones for the motorcycle officers. We decreased other materials and supplies, $2,500. This was part of the one-time expense for ammunition for the new officers. And we've also reduced the uniform line item, $7,000. That was a one-time expense also. Main expenses within this budget, radio maintenance, $20,000, computer maintenance, $1,602, the fuel line item, $72,000, and the uniform allowance, $51,150, which is a contractual item. Total budget request, $4,633,285. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief Smith.
Well, thank you very much. This is my favorite budget, too, out of all the budgets in the town. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the board, and I appreciate the opportunity here. I have a few comments. It's been a tough year for law enforcement across the country as well as locally in many ways. I put together a few comments that I think are reflective of where we're going with this budget that we're presenting tonight. Due to the hard work and dedication of the law enforcement profession, many communities throughout the nation, including towns like the town of Wakefield, have witnessed a remarkable decline in the rate of crime. America in 2015 is a far safer place than in 1985. In fact, violent crime in the United States is at its lowest number since 1978. In Wakefield, Part 1 crimes are down 41%, while Part 2 crimes and quality of life crimes are down 31% and 24% respectively. At the same time, even with the heavy snow and bitterly cold winter that we've had, our calls in the town of Wakefield, our calls for service have increased by 5%. There's no sector that has been more crucial to reducing crime levels than the partnership between the law enforcement agencies and the communities that we serve. We know that in order to be truly effective, police agencies cannot work alone. We must have the active support and assistance of the people within our communities. Unfortunately, the future of this vital and successful partnership is at risk because of the rising level of concern over issues surrounding police conduct and tactics and a misconception by the public about what we as law enforcement against and the daily challenges of our jobs. What many people don't realize is that the majority of the contact law enforcement has with its citizens is nonviolent and non-confrontational. In the recent incidents that have been the center of focus are not the norm. Across the country, the average number of arrests per year is 12.5 million, which equates to about 34,000 a day. The millions of arrests made each year, fatal encounters with law enforcement occur at a rate far below 0.005%. While any death or injury is of course extremely regrettable, these incidents are rare. In Wakefield, our arrest rates have dropped by 14%, while our call for service have increased. To me, that represents a strong pattern of conflict resolution by our officers and puts us way ahead of the recently published President's Task Force on Policing in the 21st century. According to the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Statistics, approximately 85% of the people who requested assistance of their local police departments were satisfied with the police response. That's almost 10% higher than the national level of consumer satisfaction, which is 75.6%. Judging from the number of officer complaints and the total calls for service on an annual basis, the satisfaction index in Wakefield is much higher. With over 15,000 calls for service and fewer than a half dozen citizen complaints, it puts us in the 90th percentile. And I'm confident and proud of the service that we provide. At the same time, we must remember that the threats faced by police are real. Each year, there are more than 50,000 assaults on law enforcement, which results in 14,000 officers being injured every year. In 2014, 126 officers were killed in the line of duty, and violent attacks increased by almost 50% on your local law enforcement officers. Police departments continue to take on more responsibilities. We're just not responding to crime, violence, and disruption, but also to homeland security concerns, cybercrime, and the exponential increase in non-criminal crisis calls and more. Many of the individuals we respond to suffer from mental illness, are under the influence of drugs and alcohol, or have anger management issues. To help with these challenges, law enforcement agencies are now spending a great deal of the resources collaborating with social service agencies in order to properly respond to these cases. In fact, as we know, the Wakefield Police Department was internationally recognized last year by the International Association of Chiefs of Police for working proactively with the mentally ill and dealing with mental health issues that are so common on the street today, even here in Wakefield. Oftentimes, we're just not operating as law enforcement officers, but we're assuming the role of social workers. The challenges we face are real and need to be addressed. But it's essential that we all recognize that no one group or one system owns the problem, and that no one group or system will provide the entire solution. Community residents and leaders, businesses, advocacy groups, media, politicians, and others must be willing participants and want to actively engage with the police department. We have that luxury here in Wakefield. Law enforcement remain focused on our jobs and continue to safeguard those who we are sworn to protect, and by and large do not respond to the public criticism that we've received. The men and women of the Wakefield Police Department have made a quantum leap from the policing models of the 1990s and early 2000s to the guardian policy of today. After all, we are the guardians of society. It's time from a national perspective to stop thinking cooperatively take a step forward and start to look for solutions. The police budget is a little bit different from all the other budgets in any town. We deal in the abstract as guardians in the what-if realm. Our budget, aside from personnel costs, is pretty much an insurance policy. Whether a request for cruisers, equipment, training, and education, or funds to keep our officers safe and properly outfitted with the appropriate standard for protective gear and protective equipment, we have an obligation to fund that. Our personnel are our most important asset. We need to provide for them to keep them mentally and physically fit. Having said that, I will present to you the Police Department budget for 2016. It is my hope that you will vote to support this budget as presented. I feel it's fair, thus allowing the resources to do the job that we are tasked with. I would like to thank Mr. Mayo for all of his support as well as this board over the past year. It's been a very difficult year on a national level for law enforcement, and the town of Wakefield Police Department has received nothing but support and kudos from this board as well as from Mr. Mayo. Mr. Mayo has received many phone calls over the course of the year about the police department, and to his credit, he has been fair with people who are calling based on what they've been reading in the newspapers and has directed them to my office for further explanation, and I truly appreciate that, and thank you, Mr. Guidance. Outside of that, I am here to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. First, Betsy, can you help me out?
I'd like to make a motion and then open it up for
Yep.
discussion. I move that we approve the budget number 16, to the amount of $4,633,285.
Second.
Moved by Betsy, second by Paul. Discussion. Go ahead,
Yes,
Betsy.
I am not sure of this. This is something I've asked Steve about for maybe the 14 to 18 months. Are you going to replace Leo? No, I'm very serious. The dog, the canine dog. I know
not
he
just a
went to
dog.
the great kennel in the sky, I understand that.
Yes.
And his name was Leon, and you shortened it to Leo, and I know all about him, and I have a picture of him, but, are you gonna replace him?
Yes.
When?
What we're doing is, we're bringing our 7 new recruits up online. They'll be breaking out of field training very shortly.
Okay.
To get them settled, get them on the street, and get them out there alone. To follow that, we have an officer that's gonna be assigned to a family service unit.
Okay.
Once we get that up and running, which will be hopefully by the 1st of May, the focus will be high-risk domestic violence, crimes against women, crimes against the elderly, wake up, WAV, all of that. So once that is done, our next piece to do is the school resource, high school.
Okay.
So we'll put that officer, we'll select that officer, get that officer in training, then we're gonna replace that.
Then it's time for the dogs. All right, and I'm assuming that you would get someone to sponsor his food? Wasn't there a group that sponsored and fed
Yes.
this
Yes,
Bowser? or
we
whatever?
have some outside funding out of the
Okay.
town that's gonna help
Yeah.
us. Very committed to the canine.
Because I thought he was very effective the night that he was brought before the board. We stood back like we've never stood back. You can reason with a human being. There was no reasoning with Leo. So I thought he was
Maybe
very
I sh-
effective.
Maybe I should bring him to the budget, Mary?
I just thought he was very effective, and I was very sad to see that he you know, went beyond, but whatever. I
Well,
was just
Betsy, I
wondering,
have to
if I'm
tell- I have
after
to
Steve,
tell you-
I wasn't trying to be funny. I think he's a very effective part of the puzzle that you people have to deal with every day.
Thank you, and you're right, and he was a big part of our department. He did a yeoman's work. He never called in sick.
Wore the same suit, wore the same coat for years.
Yeah.
Vacation
But I
time?
will tell you, in all sincerity, we were very, very hurt. We were very we suffered a huge loss when Leo passed away, on the law enforcement front, as well as on the personal front.
Yeah.
He was not only a working member of the department, but he was a part of the department. He did
No, I know.
great work,
No, I know.
recognized, but he also, when we lost him, he broke a lot of hearts.
I'm sure.
So, but thank you very much for
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a concern I have. All right, thank you.
Yes, Paul?
Hey, once again, kudos to you and your entire department, Chief. You're doing a fabulous job, and you always have since I've been on this board. Just a couple of quick questions, though, if I may. The 7 new recruits, what's that going to bring your numbers up to?
It brings 47.
47. And the ultimate number?
The
Well,
ultimate
I
number-
understand. I know it's a loaded question, Chief. What was our highest number in the police department?
Since I've been here, 47 is the highest number. Prior to me being here, it was 50. Well, I shouldn't say that. A long time prior to me being here. Early in Chief Doherty's career, it was 50.
So 47, though, will bring it back to when you first started, pretty much?
Well, we had a bump in the middle of when I was here, yes, during my tenure, last 11 years.
In your list of items here, school resources, the dog, and how about the walking beat? Is that ever gonna come back again?
Well, what we're doing is we're changing philosophy and we're changing the mode. The walking beat in the business areas actually is going on now. It's been tough to staff because of, we were actually 5 short. We had 5 retirements, but during our patrols during the day and in the early evenings, part of the responsibility is to put personnel in the square, North Ave, and a little bit of walking. Frankly, I would like more of that, but our calls for service are increasing, so unfortunately, we have to pull the walking officer more often than not to take the call for service.
Okay, good answer. Would love to see that walking beat come back.
There's not a bigger advocate than me.
Thank you again. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
Yeah, just quickly, Chief, you and your whole staff are well-respected here in town, but I talk to a lot of people out of town, especially people in the police community, and when your name and your department comes up, they always say, you got a good guy up there, and he runs a great show. So, I mean, that, people just offer that off the cuff, so I think that is a reflection of you, and, you know, hats off. You've always been, the whole time I've worked with you and gotten to know you, you're a good friend as well as a lead, well-respected by your, all of the men and women of your staff. So congratulations, and, you know, I hope you're here for the foreseeable future. So,
Well, thank you.
you.
They're a good bunch, and they work really hard. The men and women over there work really hard, and we're lucky to have them. And thank you.
I think it's so important to have a well-trained and educated police force, and I know that we put a lot of, and Steve does as well, we put emphasis and we give education incentives, which is so critical. A lot of towns aren't doing that. And I think that's how you avoid some of the problems we have seen across the country. And to have smart police and to have well-trained officers is absolutely critical in doing the kind of law enforcement that we want to happen in this town. So, as someone prior in law enforcement, I'm a big proponent of that.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Great.
I just want to add, and I don't think the chief brought it up, but we have talked about it, one of 17 forces in the state that is accredited. And I've been to the ceremonies, I've seen the process that we need to go through. And we are the envy of a lot of other surrounding communities, which always makes me happy when they call about, we don't have the problems that a lot of communities have because of the educated police force and because of the respect that they have, not only for the people of Wakefield, but for the chief. So, Chief, thank you for making my job easier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Great point. All right. think we're good and ready to vote. Oh, Betsy.
No, I'm ready to vote.
Oh, you're ready to vote?
I'm ready to vote.
Wonderful, all right. All in favor of approving the budget as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Great job.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Please have the minutes reflect that I'm out of here.
Yes. You got that? Hey, Betsy?
Go.
Can I grab those papers for the gentleman in the hall?
Oh,
I think he was.
I think he's leaving. I think he left.
Fine.
Get it done. All right,
Next
floor is
budget.
yours.
Budget number 17, the fire department budget. Mike Sullivan, the fire chief with us here tonight. I'll give a quick overview, and then I'll turn it over to Mike. We're recommending this budget be increased $115,728. This increase breaks down under personal services. The increase is $93,528, which includes $33,528 in contractual and negotiated increases, an increase of $50,000 in the overtime line item, and a $10,000 line item for an EMS coordinator stipend, which is a new contractual item. Under contractual services, the increase is $8,200, $2,000 for miscellaneous equipment repairs, and a $6,000 increase to the EMT certification line item due to increased costs. Under materials and supplies, there was an increase of $13,500. This breaks down $2,000 for motor parts, $2,500 in the fuel line item, $1,000 in the medical supply line item due to increased costs, $1,000 for other supplies and materials, $2,000 in public safety material, and $5,000 in the uniform line item. Main expenses within this budget, $25,000 for the auto maintenance line item, $31,000 for the EMT certification line item, $30,000 for the fuel item, and $55,000 for the uniform allowance, which is a contractual item. Total budget request, $4,245,887. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike if he has.
Go ahead.
As always, Kevin, you did a fine job. I just wanted to add that I think it's a reasonable request, for this year's, but I would welcome any questions or comments from the board.
Great. Can I get a motion first?
So move I'll make a motion to, for the budget of $4,245,887.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Moved by Paul, second by Tiz. Paul, did you want to speak on that?
The same thing. Kudos to you and your entire department. You're doing an outstanding job as always, Michael. I have nothing but high praise for both you and the police and the jobs that you do for the town. It's an ongoing job that you're doing, and I'm very appreciative of it. Your numbers too now reflect how many members are total?
I'm up to 50.
And is that at what level of, are we at the right number?
Yeah, we're at 4 groups, duty shifts of 12, myself and the fire prevention officer.
So we're fully staffed?
Yes.
Currently, let's put it that way.
Yes.
Knock on wood, thank you. Okay, again, nope, that's fine. I'm very happy with what's going on right now. I'm very appreciative of the entire department.
I actually have no, to my knowledge, no planned retirements this year.
Great.
Great.
This is actually, I think, the first time in a long time, maybe in 10 years, that there are actually 4 complete shifts.
Oh, really?
At the fire department.
Nice.
And it takes a long time to hire and train because of civil service and what have you, so that's, I know the chief is very happy about that.
Yes, yeah, I've had 19 firefighters since I took over.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's crazy.
And if I could jump in, one thing I've talked to the chief about a lot this year is about training and the need to have our firefighters trained to handle any eventuality that may occur. And interestingly enough, they participated in some training on fighting electrical fires. And within a week,
Yeah.
the transformer down on Water and Wakefield Ave, maybe Water, went, and it was an electrical fire.
Nice.
So it was really very apropos. So we have tried to keep, current and what have you. So the chief has done a real good job about making that consistent upon the four groups. So I do appreciate that.
Great. Thanks. Anybody else?
I have just a
Yes?
couple questions.
Go ahead.
Chief, in the increase, thousand for the EMS coordinator stipend, can you just go into a little bit of detail about that? And
Yep. The state completely revamped the way that it recertifies and trains its EMTs. It's much more individualized and a lot more complicated than it used to be. We actually used to gather all the documentation for all the EMTs and then submit it in one package to the state, and it's not allowed anymore. They have to put them on their own. It's very, very specific topic-oriented training that the EMTs have to take. So we're offering a lot more training in-house, which obviously is an added expense to the department. This position was negotiated in the last collective bargaining agreement, and that person would be responsible, the person receiving the stipend, which would not be another position in the department, it would be somebody already getting they would be coordinating the ordering and of medical supplies, they would be coordinating the training of the department's 46 EMTs, that kind of stuff. And also they would be coordinating with the state in terms of making sure everybody's on track with recertifying and all their classes are registered properly, that kind of thing.
Okay. And what about the 50,000 overtime? Why that request?
The $50,000 time is a direct result of my trying to bring my budget into what it's actually costing the department in overtime annually. I actually, over the last couple of days, I made some phone calls to some of the surrounding cities and towns, and Wakefield still, the fire department is still a bargain in terms of how much overtime we're spending. If you go around to some of the surrounding towns, I actually have that. Give you an example. We're currently at 200,000, and we have another account of $30,000 of miscellaneous overtime. That's what we're currently funded for. I picked these communities because they're close to population of Wakefield. Melrose, 27,600. They have a total complement of 57. They have $400,000 in overtime. Needham has a population of 29,700. They have 53 firefighters, and it's actually 818,000. Reading has a complement of 45, and their overtime budget is 377,000 with a 10-man minimum, which is the same as what we have. Stonium has a smaller department. They only have 34 firefighters, and consequently their overtime is lower, but it's still 250,000 with a 6-man minimum. Wilmington's 800,000 with 40. Lexington's 820,000 with 56, and you can throw North Reading in. They have a similar population. They have 22 firefighters, and their overtime budget is 780,000. So I think we're.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks for the explanation. I think it helps to let the public know when we have increases in budgets and what they're for.
I'd rather ask for the money up front than
Yeah.
to go for a reserve fund transfer at the other
Absolutely.
end of the year. It just seems to
I think
make
it's
more
smart,
sense
yeah.
that way.
Thank you.
Phyllis?
I want to mention an incident that happened. Weeks ago, I was in a restaurant, and one of the patrons in there, a gentleman, couldn't breathe. They brought him outside for some fresh air, but he got worse. So they called 911, and I have to tell you, we were all impressed. If the fire department, the police department, they were there in about 10 minutes, and they brought him inside, and the people that are so well trained, they would not let him get up, they would not drive, they took him in the ambulance, they kept him overnight. Really, it was remarkable what they did, because it's what they should have done. And even though the gentleman said he was gonna go home because of the blood pressure and everything, so the EMTs, whoever they were, or whatever they came from, the police, the fire, I gotta tell you, we are well taken care of in this town.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Hull. It's very nice for you to say that. I'm very proud of the men and women that serve under me.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Just
Pat?
quickly, yeah, Chief, we added the safety officer a few years ago. How, and when I had spoken to you before, you were, one of the things that was perplexing you was keeping up with inspections of construction plans and inspection of facilities and things like that. Have you been able to get caught up with those things, or where do we stand on?
Yes, we have caught up. It's a struggle though, because as soon as I got the fire insurance, stated the economy underwent a construction boom.
Yeah.
So it's, we're both working at it, and it would certainly be much harder if I didn't have that position filled. And I'm very grateful to the board for reinstating that position.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the fire department as I do about the police department. I think we're lucky. We have a very skilled group of professionals, and led by Chief Sullivan here. And one thing I see in my profession is whether it's, we don't have a lot of labs here, but we have a lot of technology, the head of the lake. It's important for firefighters to keep up. When they show up to the building, the first thing they do is they say, what's in there? They don't know all the time what they're going into. And, sometimes what people say is in a building is, things are different. So that electrical fire is a perfect example, how to approach things and how to, different technologies, things are changing all the time, changing all the time. So my hat's off to you guys for, doing your best to keep up and keeping the community safe.
Great. Everybody good? Great. I'll echo the same. All wonderful. Only get good reports from the fire department, and I think this board as a whole is finding a lot of strong supporters for the firefighters in the town of Wakefield. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had a motion, right? I think we're ready to vote. So all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Good luck.
Thanks, Chief.
Let's get Miss.
No, we have.
Oh, EMS. Yep.
Actually, I think the next two.
Emergency management.
Yep.
And then retirement.
The emergency management budget, budget number 19, recommending level funding. This budget, under contractual services, there is an increase of $5,100. This increase is to use to purchase, maintain, and support within the town's emergency operations center. And under the materials and supplies line item, there is a decrease of $5,100, and that's due to the disbanding of the town's auxiliary fire department. The total budget request is $30,872.
I'll make a motion to approve budget number 19, the emergency management budget in the amount of $30,872.
Second.
Moved by Tiz, second by Paul. I assume no discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Actually, Betsy does not come back to this one. Sorry.
I was looking forward to taking a walk.
I know, maybe you were.
All right.
The last budget tonight, budget number 45, the retirement budget, requesting an increase of $251,085. This increase breaks down for the non-contrib tax levy increase is $361. The contributory tax levy portion increased $192,681. The water, sewer, and light department transfers increased $58,043. This budget is based on a funding schedule voted by the Wakefield Retirement Board that runs through 2035 and is based on a January 2014 actuarial valuation. Without the last schedule we were on, it ran through 2038, so we were able to shorten our funding schedule by 3 years and basically keep the same level that we've had for the past several years. The total budget requests $4,872,405, with $3,805,843 coming from tax levy and $1,066,562 coming from enterprise transfers.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Tiz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
park on the new field.
Really?
Come on. You just said she was on the 50-yard line. She's not driving us anywhere. So how'd you like the Red Sox idea for getting rid of the snow? They put black sand all over the field and it shrunk and they covered the whole thing. And the first application, it went down 2.5 feet.
We found.
Black.
All right.
And it just makes no sense.
That's how the record reflected.
Clean it up.
She's back.
She's back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is setting a date for our annual town meeting. We're proposing Monday, May 4th. I assume with a Thursday, if we need to continue, would be the likely expectation, so.
Yep.
Everybody good with May 4th? Can I get a motion to set our annual town May 4th?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry.
Moved by Tiz, second by Betsy. All in favor of May 4th being the town meeting date?
Aye.
Great. Next one, we need to open the annual town meeting warrant, right? And I think that just needs a simple vote, right? So, I get a motion to open the town meeting warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, second by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next item is we need to set the date to close the town, since we're opening it today, April 3rd, 2015, which is that's a month before town meeting. Can I get a motion to close the town meeting warrant on April 3rd, 2015?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Betsy, second by Phyllis. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. And now, 2016 budget update. Steve?
Yes, I thought I would give a little bit of information based on the word that's come out of the governor's office. The governor has released his House 1 budget, which called. Normally, we would get that a little bit earlier in the year, but where this was Governor Baker's first year in office, it took him some time to get this going, so. And it was presented in the newspaper and it's been out there, but as always, the devils are in the details, and when you look at all of the items on what's called the cherry sheet, which is where they give us the money that the town is gonna receive and the assessments that the town is going to also, I guess, be forced to pay, we're getting 3% increase in money from the state, about $234,000. The bulk of that is in an increased $20 per student under Chapter 70, which is about $167,000 of that. I think that's nice to get another $20 per student, but as I've said for years, my problem with how the state handles Chapter 70 is they just throw an extra amount of money for each pupil across the board. For communities like Wakefield, who are not getting our fair share, meaning we're not getting the state funding 17.5% of our budget, of our foundation budget for the schools, we end up falling further behind. And if we were to be increased to get to our target share, our promised share by the state of 17.5%, that amount should be over $400,000 right there. So I've railed about this for years. I will tell you that Drs. Reich and I are meeting with our, particularly Senator Lewis, who has taken this on as a change within the next couple of weeks. We'll certainly will report back to this board, but I'll continue to rail on this because we do not get our fair share. Reading, a very similar community to ours, gets $10 million in Chapter 78. We get about 5. So it really is, we've fought this uphill battle for years. But the things in the budget that thought I would talk about. Number one is the budget does
How did it get that way?
What?
How did it get that way?
It's the formula.
Is it really?
That's what we'll be told. Yeah. And when Chapter 70 formula ed reform came in a long time ago, there was some evaluation that I think disadvantaged our community for some reason. And I don't know if it was the basic wealth of the community at the time or what happened, but we've been fighting that battle ever since. So,
May I ask?
you've all heard this before.
We also had someone come in from the state
Yeah.
in 2005, I think,
Yeah.
2006. And all roads led to Rome. It was all about the formula. And the words median, and average. And it's the wealth of the community and the fact, when Ed Reform came in also, that if your community was not in debt as much as other community, I mean, many pieces to the puzzle. Until they change that formula, we're gonna have to just suck it up every year. It's just the way it is.
So it sounds like they use the formula to establish a baseline. That
Right.
then
Right.
Now we're stuck with the original.
Right.
It never went
Yeah.
back.
If they ever reran the formula in its entirety today, the results would be dramatically different.
Right, and I understand that that will be very difficult for any rep to do, any
Yeah.
community to get less. My point is, get us up to that level before you give everybody money across them. That hasn't happened, and that's something I've been talking about for probably more than anybody cares to hear me say.
But that requires other reps to give up money
Exactly.
for their,
Right.
for their
Exactly,
towns.
so it's difficult.
Political machine.
The governor's budget does include $50 million for emergency snow removal, a cost, no cost for cities and towns.
I'd like 5 million of that.
I don't know, yeah. I don't know what that means for the community, for the town of Wakefield. We just don't know yet. I think that number should be closer to 200 million for the state. So, but that's round one. So that's something, again, I've been talking to our reps about. One thing I think that the governor did that was very apropos, that he actually met with FEMA and in Washington. And FEMA has this theory that they look at a catastrophe. You have one big hurricane, you have one big storm. What we experienced was a month-long event, really, what the state of Massachusetts occurred. So what the governor was trying to do was to get FEMA to look at that as the event. Take all of these, storms during this 30-day period. So perhaps there will be some money there as well. I'm just setting up because there's another snow and ice overdraft on the next issue, so maybe there's some help down the road there. We also received the numbers on the GIC and health insurance. Slight but again, the GIC increase that your community experiences depends on the mix that the employees take, because there's a lot of different health plans there. So you could have a Harvard plan that might go up 5%, and then a Tufts plan that goes down 3%. So what we work with our personnel department is to talk with our employees to, see what most cost-effective plan meets their criteria. And because all of the co-pays are the same, all the plans, it has to do with networks. So we'll be working with that. But I think the numbers that I thought about for healthcare will still be where I think we'll end up this year in a budget. And we're gonna be at the same place where we were in fiscal year 11 on a total cost basis. But in fiscal year 15, we're still funding OPEB at $1.8 million.
Right.
So really, we're way ahead of where we were
Good-ish.
before we went into the GIC. So the GIC has done a great job. Looking down, what we've been doing with the Finance Committee is really looking 3 years down the road, trying to see where we think things are gonna flush out, particularly with some new growth possibilities. And at our next meeting, I will have a item on the agenda that is going to be part and parcel about a new growth possibility. So I'll leave that out there for you guys till our next meeting. But the budget is really, from the state, is really where we anticipated it would be. I don't see any great surprises. I'm hoping that when it gets to the House and Senate, maybe our numbers will be a little bit better. And that's it. If you have any other questions.
Good question. Is there anywhere, probably wouldn't rise to the level of that $5 million, Wakefield Reading disparity you just kind of laid out there? Anywhere where we are doing well in our
In state aid?
Yeah.
Our unrestricted local aid is okay, I guess, but nothing to write home about.
Nothing.
Wakefield has traditionally been forced to wean itself from local aid, which actually has been good when they cut it, because we're used to working on our own. But it is very frustrating, and it's, when you think about, what you get per student, if we got what some of our surrounding communities got, very demographically similar, how different.
An extra $5 million a year.
Oh, yeah. It's and that's every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we very low or is Reading high?
I think it's a combination of both.
Both? Okay.
But again, when you look at the formula in the state eyes, they don't appear high.
Yeah, the formula says we're both dead on.
Yeah, oh, we're under the
Right.
formula, but.
Yeah.
Right.
Melrose is high too, isn't it?
No, they're a little bit, but they're higher than we are. Yeah. We would probably get an extra $1 million plus a year if we got the same per pupil that Merrill's got. No, it's a very it's been frustrating since ed reform came in 20 years ago.
All right, on that note, let's move on to the next item, which is,
Yeah. I told Mr. Stinson he'd have to come in on the next one on his own. It's the last one I will support him.
all right, unfortunately, but, you guys did a great job, and so it is what it is. But we have a request from the Director of Public Works, Rick Stinson, for a snow and ice overdraft of $400,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Betsy, second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Next item, licenses. We have a request from J&A Auto Body for a Class 2 license at 1273 Main Street.
Non-display.
Non-display license? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve, and then we'll do a little discussion.
I'll move license.
Second.
All right, moved by Betsy, second by Pat. Steve, I know we're cautious about our auto dealer licenses.
No, I don't think, we have no issues that we'd report on this one? No. This is another one of those, it's an auto body that will occasionally want to go and go to the auctions. We do it similarly. I see no issues here. And if there are, we'll deal with them, but there's no issues at all.
Okay, any other questions from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great, that's approved. All right, we have correspondence, letters from DHCD, the Mass Department of Transportation, and a letter from a resident in a multifamily building regarding the trash issue. I have a quick question on the Department of Transportation letter. Just in flipping through that, it talks about the work they're doing from Burlington through up 95 to the 93, 95 interchange, and then it talks about the work they're doing in our town. Does that just barely touch us somewhere?
Really barely touches us.
So it's like a
Yeah.
okay, all right. Seemed like it was a mistake almost, all right. All right. With that, I think we'll go around the table. Town council. Nothing this evening.
I have nothing.
Steve?
I have something.
Great.
I want to be precise, and I'm going to read some of the information that I have.
Please.
Because I want it clear, it's my ideas, it's what I have to say, and I think it's very important. And so some of this I have typed, but I want to make sure everybody hears what I have to say.
Great.
I want to bring up the letter that was written by Mr. Manley and printed in the Wakefield item on Wednesday, March 4th. To tell the truth, I was appalled that the item would print such a letter that disparaged and criticized parents, Dr. and Mrs. Mayo, Mr. and Mrs. Mullen, these are the parents, and Mr. and Mrs. Sherman. Whoever wrote this letter evidently doesn't realize that two of these parents are deceased. And it was so discouraging for me to see them being criticized for the rearing of their children. As far as I'm concerned, these, regardless of what goes on, these are three gentlemen raised a credit to the community. You don't always have to agree with what they do, but for someone to put that kind of a letter to me is just, to me, disgusting, okay? These are parents who had nothing to do with the Mary Galvin problem. If they wanted to admonish, find fault, or criticize these young men, their sons, have the good sense to stick to the subject and the people involved. They had no business attacking innocent family members. Furthermore, they also Mr. and Mrs. Manley went too far in attacking another innocent bystander. The town administrator's secretary, Sherry Dalton. Where did they ever get the idea that Miss Dalton is never at her desk? Do they go there every day to investigate? I am at the town administrator's office sometimes several times a week, trying to get some answers or to get a problem resolved for the citizens of Wakefield. I'm always in there, even though I work at different times. Miss Dalton has always been there, pleasant and to help in any way, unless she is doing one of the many chores, such as printing the appropriation books. Because this is what I have to find out that she does. That we now do in-house, saving the town a lot of money. She handles all the license applications on the website. She handles the phone system. She schedules the conference rooms. She sends out town reports for bids. All the board's meetings, and she handles our computers. This is only part of her responsibilities. So do you think she accomplishes this by not being at her desk? Do we have some kind of a ghost doing this kind of work? She is one of the most helpful and efficient secretaries we have ever had. The only time Miss Dalton was not available was when her son was seriously injured and she had to transport him to doctor's appointments and hospitals. Then she was working on her computer for the town. Mr. and Mrs. Manley should get their facts straight before they criticize anyone like this. Furthermore, every good parent in town, this is how I feel, whose child might have an issue with someone else should be insulted by this letter, inferring that it was the way they were brought up. And evidently, they do not get the item or go to town hall. Every public meeting is published in the item and posted at town hall. So what I want to know is, what did this letter do for Mary Galvin?
Well done, Phyllis. Thank you.
I would also like to add to Phyllis's comments that when Ms. Dalton was first hired, she was trained in every area and every section of town hall, every department, so that if someone were out sick and there was a time element that to be done, Sherry could go down and work in that department, but always keeping her eyes and ears on the Selectmen's office as well, and does work for the retirement board, if I'm not mistaken, and fills in as a floater, if you will, although we didn't fill it this year, but when Sherry was training, she knows every aspect of every department, which is great, so nothing gets held up or nothing is stopped. I find it very difficult frustrating, when opinion as opposed to fact is written down. I know that members of this board have been frustrated with some opinions or some statements that are put down as fact, and we cannot comment, we can't say anything, it's not our position to do so, but, and it's very frustrating in that manner, and I do not know Mr. and Mrs. Sherman. I had met Mrs. Mullen, never met, but I do know Dr. Mayo and his wife, and these people are the salt of the earth, and I felt very badly when I read the letter. As a result, and I say this, and I say it to Steve a lot, I pay a neighborhood kid $10 a week not to deliver the item, so that's where I stand. Go for it.
All set.
Oh,
I'm done.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things that I would like to attention of the board. The utmost one is I had a talk with Steve recently. I would like to bring back the issue regarding the Asian bodywork / massage parlors within Wakefield. It's been brought up numbers of times to me regarding as to what is the town going to do. We just had another incident on Albion Street where another raid was held. The underlying question has always been, right now, that I've been hearing is, what are we going to do about it? If you go to a certain website right now on the internet and you type in certain key phrases, it comes up with several locations within Wakefield. Two of them are very prominent, and there's a lot of children that walk by them on a regular basis. The one is at 446 Main Street, and the other one's at 111 Albion Street. Both highly traveled by, okay? We can't do much about it, according to Mr. Mayo, regarding the licensing of it. But my suggestion, and I'm going to put it to the board, is can't we do something in regards to their signage? They both fall within the signage overlay bylaw, which states that no more than 10% of their single pane can be covered by any item. Both of them are fully covered. So I'm asking whether or not we can instruct the sign bylaw.
Yeah, I think we can.
to-
I'm curious, I'm more curious, why can't we do anything from a licenser's perspective? Just,
Those are not licensed locally.
we're not.
And sometimes, in some instances, because of a vagary in the state statute, they are not, don't need to be licensed at all. Kind of falls through the cracks with the Division of State Licensure. But we're working with our reps on that as well. When there are activities on, it's joint between the state and the police, and there have been some, so.
So my request to this board is that we take a more proactive stance on trying to correct this issue, at least in the high visibility locations of these establishments. It's not something that I'd like to be broadcasting to surrounding communities that we are, you know, a location for this type of an establishment.
Okay?
I would think that any business in town follow under the rules, since we have no jurisdiction about licensing. But we do have something we can hang our hat on, which is the sign bylaw, that you said 10%, correct? No more than 10%?
Of each pane.
Well, of each.
10% of your glass.
Right, but I understand that every business should be following that,
Yes.
correct?
Right.
So this
Well-
wouldn't be as though we were targeting specific people,
Right.
specific areas, although the job would get done, so the
No, I
enforcement.
think actually that these are already on the signage enforcement officer, which is hired.
Oh,
It's
okay,
act- they're- These are actually on his list of problem areas, and he's ticking through them. I don't think it'd be unfair to say maybe we should reach out to them a little sooner, but they're definitely already on the radar.
Okay,
So,
good,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so that was the one issue of importance that I would like. The rest of them are all congratulatory. Starting with the Wakefield fifth grade girls A team on a perfect 19-0 season in winning the championship in basketball. Going on 7th and 8th grade, they became 2015 champions with an overtime win over Andover. Going on to the
Girls'
Cate-
sixth grade team.
excuse me?
Girls' sixth grade team.
Girls' sixth grade team
My
as
daughter.
well are now champions as well. So outstanding basketball season all around. Let's not forget, though, that Dan Wensley is an all-state wrestling champ in the 195 pound category. The first time since 1995 we've had a state champion in that. I'd like to. Two more things and I'll be done. I'd like to also take a minute right now and congratulate or thank the current staff in the clerk's office for an outstanding job that they've been doing over these last several months. All departments within the town do the yeoman position as far as the work to do. The clerk's office currently right now is doing a phenomenal job, and kudos to the entire staff. I just wanted to make sure that I thank them for everything that they've done for me over the last several months. So I just want to give them a little bit of acknowledgement. The last thing, the Just Jazz Fest is coming up on March 22nd. Tickets are on sale right now and still available. I'd love to see the selectmen in attendance. We have several of our local representatives on hand coming. We have Ms. Sharon going to be the MC for the Democrats, and Gerard Lehman will be the MC for the Republicans. Last year, it was a hoot. Especially when Donald Dwan got up. But it was a great time last year. It was just a lot of fun. So, you know, you just have to not be thick-skinned and just go in there and have a great time. Other than that, that's it. Thank you for your indulgence.
Yeah, just quickly, number one, I want to reiterate what Betsy said about we shouldn't discriminate against any people or nationality for that matter in administering or any of our bylaws or any of our laws for that matter. Second of all, I want to also echo what Betsy and Phyllis said about you know, the whole HR matter, how it was handled internally and by Steve and Tom. I think you both did a great job. Very difficult situation, and I think you both handled yourself with professionalism of the highest degree in a lot of class. And my hat's off to you. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy situation. It's not an easy position to be in, but you did a great job, and you did the best you could. And I have full faith in both of you. And the same goes for Sherry. Sherry, you've always been more than patient, probably more patient than you should be with all of us, and very helpful and very professional. You know, it was a tough transition. You know, Trudy had been here for a long time, but you filled right in and took over and, you know, made it your own job, and you've done a great job. So, thank you. And then lastly, I think in talking with Steve, in talking with Chief Smith, and in talking with Rick Stinson, we've kind of proven that the reverse 911 system for notifying citizens of emergencies or things going on around the town or in the schools seems to work really well. There was some reluctance in previous years, but I think now we've proven that it works well. I'd like to propose that we put on the, for an upcoming meeting, that we do away with the winter parking ban going forward, and if there's a snowstorm or some type of an emergency, that the police department, the DPW, or the town deems it necessary to say no, no on-street parking for the period of from now till whenever, people can be notified, and put that on one of the coming agendas. That's it, Brian, thank you.
Great. Steve, to put that on the agenda, is that something that, do you want to invite somebody from DPW here, or do you think we should have
Yeah.
a discussion? Should somebody take a look at it, maybe report to us?
Should we have a public hearing, maybe?
What's
I
the
don't
right?
think you need to have a public hearing,
Okay.
but we should have probably DPW, maybe one of the and
Okay,
police and fire here, or
Whoever's
representatives.
affected and responsible for that stuff ought to
Yep.
have we gotta make sure they weigh in on it. That
Yep.
sounds like a good idea.
Thanks.
Tiz?
Yeah, just a couple things. Steve, hopefully on the snow budget relief from the state, they don't use the Chapter 70 formula.
And I'm hoping for the Chapter 90 formula's a little better for us, yeah. I agree.
And on a more serious note, just to echo what Betsy and Pat said, I'm all for free speech. People have the right to their opinion, and they can say what they want. But I would just hope that people in the future would use a factual basis for whatever arguments that they make or whatever position that they take. Even here in public participation, to come before us and not have your facts straight kind of bothers me. And just the mere fact that people were disparaged in the newspaper as a result of a few incidents, I think is wrong. And again, the facts speak for themselves, and the facts came out the right way. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Tiz. Ann?
I have faith in the intelligent people of Wakefield, that when they read one letter or a couple of letters in the paper, that they can understand that that is the opinion of that one person and read between the lines of the nonsense that it contains, misleading, and I would say lies, and I'll call it what it is. And that I believe the people of Wakefield understand that does not represent what the facts are. I also think people are very skeptical. I was stuck on the train for an hour and a half, so I apologize. People are very, skeptical of the, when someone says, we the townspeople of Wakefield, we the community want this and that, we believe that when it's coming from one person, that perhaps it's not coming from the whole community. So I do trust our community to weed through the facts, and so echo that Sherry is fabulous. and always has been professionally, personally. That's it.
Great, thanks. I guess I'll start with, on the Sherry front as well. The letter was absurd, to your point. I mean, it's just a part of a trend of folks trying to take care of political issues or axes they have to grind by running to personal attacks, and including on deceased people's parents and living people who are doing a good job, and their anger bubbles to the surface. We all should have that policy of you write the letter and you put it in a drawer before, let it sit before you send it. Unfortunately, in this day and age, send is a button and it goes right to the newspaper and it gets printed. And but even if it's, even if people are sorry for it or whatever may have been the case, that the damage is done, right? So Sherry has to, who's, I'll say it that way on purpose, employee in town hall just doing a great job, has to deal with the vitriol and the repercussions of, as though you're an elected official or something like that, like we are. Completely unfair, especially when the criticism was completely unfathomed and unwarranted. So along the same lines, I think the whole town clerk office issue has been really just despicable. I think that what has gone on with the town clerk herself and the issues there are one thing, but to just take what she has done and I think created a bad situation for herself, what she's done and take it, and people have just decided to put a full front attack on the current serving members of the clerk's office. So, Rose Morgan sits in the clerk's office and has for years and has served us well as on an interim basis and has been getting just necessarily and unfairly attacked and ravaged in the newspaper for doing nothing more than showing up to work and doing her job and doing it well through a bad situation. So somebody who ought to be held in the highest regard and given accolades for her performance has actually been wrapped into that personal machine. Let's take down Rose while we're at it. Somebody wasn't fair. I don't think the person I like is being treated fairly. So I will respond by going on a personal attack on somebody else. Again, so warranted and unfathomed. And I think it's a larger issue that's going on societally right now. And if you guys saw what Kurt Schilling did the other day, people wrote things about his daughter online, and he went and figured out who they were and published their names, and some of them lost their jobs for writing awful things. And at the end of the day, it's really all about accountability. And those people were, somehow they were held accountable. People hide behind things. And I think the folks who spend things in their dark back offices of their homes, coming up with letters they can write to the newspaper full of erroneous, intentionally negligent facts and lies and so forth. We know they're all out there. They do this without any accountability. And the reason, if people wonder why we don't respond to those things, is that first of all, you never want to dignify that type of sentiment with some sort of response. So you just have to let it go, which is so hard when people are writing to you, very often personally. And number two, we are accountable. We take an oath and make a promise as elected officials in this office that we will fight a fair fight in the newspaper. So if we're going to write something ever, we're held to a higher level. Right? We will write the truth. We're not going to go write lies in the newspaper. We're not going to use the same underhanded tactics to mislead this community that elects us to be truthful to them. And so it gets really hard when folks write lies and very intentionally. I fully believe it. I don't think for a minute that I think on occasion people make mistakes, but I think more of it is let's twist the facts to achieve our objectives. And when you're sitting here, ironically, I'm sitting here with one arm tied in front of my chest here, but if you have one arm tied behind your back, which is you have to tell the truth and be honest, it gets really hard to sit quietly and fight the fight against the folks who want to spread lies for their own self-advancement in this town. And so a lot of projects have been affected by this. The town clerk's office has been affected by this. Sherry is now affected by this, people's parents. And it's about time that we stand up and hold people accountable. So when you read the letters in the paper, I think people find them, it's Betsy, you say you don't get the paper because of it. I think it's the reason why a lot of people get the paper. let's see what kind of craziness is in it today. But I think we need to start taking a little more proactive approach and say, you know, how can I hold these people accountable, right? Stop listening to them. And to your point, you know, people know, and I do hold the people in Wakefield in high regard, that they'll, you know, they can see through things. But sometimes those letters, especially the ones laden with facts and figures and data, there's nothing better to advance a great lie than to pepper in numbers and data and statistics that just sound great. And that's what goes on here. Not a lot of people have the time to dig in. They just say, oop, there's something wrong there, that's why these are that mad. And I think people are taking advantage of it, and they're using this forum and this type of activity to kind of take over the town and mislead us and prevent us from doing great things because they're not a part of it, right? You want to do something great, step up and do something good, but stop throwing rocks at the good ideas and the good things that are going on at the town, and more importantly, at the good people who are doing great things in the town. So please cut it out, and please, people in the town, step up, and when you read that stuff, do not be entertained, disgusted, and find those people on the street and tell them that. And maybe we can fix it.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I would like to just say something that has not been brought up,
Sure.
that was there. There, you know, the old expression, if you read it in the paper, it must be true. There is the town charter that we go by, and the town charter does not say that we are going to appoint a town clerk.
No.
But that has been out there. Oh, they're gonna make an appointment. They're gonna do this, they're gonna do, we can't make an, our charter doesn't allow for that.
Why let the truth get in the way
You know,
of my
and
anger?
that's the frustrating part. When you see something and you say, that's not true, you know, it's very frustrating. But I would also like to take this opportunity before we adjourn to congratulate you and Mr. Donaco, because as of 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, I think you will be on this board again.
Oh. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, with that, let's get back to having fun. And does anybody have anything else to say at all, Betsy, tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Pat does.
Second, it's always in order.
Moved by Pat, second by Paul. All in favor? Aye. We will adjourn. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.